Annie Lennox, Emma Thompson and Lord Simon Woolley are amongst a coalition of people who've signed a petition urging the British government to press Nigerian authorities to take stronger action against the ongoing violence there. The Stop Nigeria Genocide campaign seeks to avoid yet another refugee crisis as the unrest continues to escalate. The violence is motivated by religious, political and economic unrest, with human rights groups reporting militant gangs persecuting both Christians and Muslims. Well, I'm pleased to say I'm now joined by campaigners Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu and Femi Olawale to discuss it all. Good afternoon to you. Dr. Shola, let's come to you first. Describe to us, I gave a brief overview of what's going on in Nigeria right now. Extraordinary. We're talking about abductions. We're talking about violent terrorist attacks. The situation is getting worse and worse.
That's correct. The Nigerian government would have the world believe that the security crisis in Nigeria is about intercommunal violence by these extremists. But that would be inaccurate because the security crisis has given birth to over 3 million Nigerians being ethnically cleansed and displaced. It has given birth to the religious persecution and murder of Christians, thousands of Christians for decades, as well as the persecution and murder of Muslims by the likes of Boko Haram and the Islamic State West Africa province and other undisclosed bandits. The security crisis has given birth to a kidnap for ransom industry, both in the north and south of Nigeria, all of which disproportionately impacts women and children. There are over 10 million Nigerian children, according to UNICEF, who are deprived of education because of their parents' legitimate concerns that their children could be the next abducted students. So the reality here is that the security crisis in Nigeria poses a significant risk at a regional and global level. And we are calling on...
And Femi, let's bring you in. I mean, these are extraordinary details of what's happening in Nigeria. We have covered this on Sky News as well. What do you want the British government to do about it? What can the British government do about it?
Well, we have the security pact with Nigeria where we exchange information and weapons. We also regularly allow Nigerian diplomats to come to the UK, bringing vast wealth over here. So we have diplomatic tools that can be used to pressure the Nigerian government. And my message to the UK is twofold. One is to everybody, and that is to say, aren't we tired of this? Aren't we tired of having these debates about what to do with asylum seekers, with often coming from countries where the UK has not prioritized the human rights of the people in those countries. We go on with this British first mentality, but it ultimately ends up creating a refugee crisis that we have to deal with. And there are tools that can be done. We've seen it with Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. We're seeing it with Gaza. The question is Nigeria going to be the next one? My other message is to people like me, Brits born in the UK who might have Nigerian parents who feel that sense of guilt that we're living here, benefiting from the economic advantages that were gained by the subjugation of our ancestors back in Nigeria. And we've always seen bad things happen in Nigeria, whether it's Boko Haram, the SARS police brutality. And we've wondered, but what can we do to help? Well, this is something we can do. We can sign this petition.
So Dr. Shola, what kind of response have you had? I know you've gathered this petition. You've got a lot of celebrities on board, as well as senior politicians and people involved in politics. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is for people to join us by signing the petition at stopnigeriagenocide.com. That's stopnigeriagenocide.com. We are building a movement now, both online and offline. There are people raising questions. There are people talking about it. And let's not forget, this has been happening for decades. So it's not like people have not been engaged. One of the NGOs that we're working with, the PSG UK, they've been collaborating and working with the government. So the UK government is well away. So for us, it is now time to use this petition to demand that impunity meets justice. And that means it's time to hold to account those who are responsible, and it's time to save lives. That is the next step. So we call on everybody, please go to stopnigeriagenocide.com, sign the petition, make your voice count.
Yeah, Femi, I guess, you mentioned a lot of crises around the world right now. Particularly, we've been looking at what's going on in Gaza, now Lebanon and Ukraine. We had, as you mentioned, Afghanistan. It's pretty hard then, isn't it, for places like Nigeria to get that attention that it really needs. And as you say, this is almost like a preventative call to action.
Yeah, because we've failed in those places. We haven't prioritized the human rights of people in Gaza. We haven't prioritized it in Afghanistan. And the result of that is that it ends up with those places being less safe, people feeling less comfortable staying there. And many of them will stay in the countries that are nearby, but there will be some that end up coming here. Now, of course, refugees, immigrants from other countries contribute massively to our economy. But obviously, a refugee is a failure of security in the country they're coming from. And we have a chance to try and make sure that that doesn't happen again with Nigeria. And
Femi, we're running out of time, and I want to squeeze this in. You mentioned this pact that Britain has with Nigeria, the new UK-Nigeria Security and Defence Partnership. Give me a couple of points that you want to see the British government or the new Labour government do to impact what's going on in Nigeria.
Well, that pact involves the exchange of information and security cooperation. I don't think we should be cooperating with a country that isn't prioritizing the security of its own people. If Nigeria clearly has the tools to be use police brutality on its own people, why is it not using those against people that are conducting industrial scale kidnappings?
Exactly.
Right. Dr. Shola, 30 seconds.
Absolutely. It is time, as I said, for impunity to be justice, and this petition is calling on the UK government to ensure that there's sanctions on the right people, right bodies, and that we bring to light what is being hidden in the darkness. It is time to prioritize human rights and the human rights of Nigerians right now in our foreign policy.